Welcome to the uni-max workshop. The two-part doors, or if you prefer, the workshop gates, are mostly finished. We just need the lock, fittings, hinges, and surface finishing. So we have a colorful mix of tasks and techniques ahead of us. As mentioned in the first part, holes were created on the edges of the wings due to the grooves on the back side of the boards, which are good to fill. For this purpose, durable two-component materials are the best fit. Polyester filler hardens very quickly, but it doesn't look very nice. If you use a covering paint, there's nothing to worry about. However, if someone wants to preserve the look of the wood, they can use epoxy resin. For example, wood dust can be used as a filler in a ratio of up to 1:1. The resulting mixture is thick and doesn't seep like the resin alone. The result is darker than pine, but it still looks better than gray or white polyester. Moreover, if you use a dark stain, you can unify the color. The original doors didn't have a mortise lock, just a simple latch. A century ago, that was enough in stables. With all due respect to our ancestors, if they had today's technology, they wouldn't fuss with stones and would just shove an aerated concrete, drywall, adhesive with mesh, and silicone with foam everywhere. So even though I'm a traditionalist, I allowed myself a small innovation in the form of a mortise lock with a cylinder insert. I made the holes for the chisels on a column drill using a 16mm diameter bit. I roughly joined them with a cordless drill and finished them off with the chisel. I routed the recess for the lock faceplate using a 19mm diameter groove cutter. The router with a parallel guide did a perfect job. The holes for the handle and insert can also be routed instead of drilled. This way, perpendicularity is easily guaranteed. I made the internal plate from steel sheet and preserved the original decorative profile. I cut the sheet with sheet metal shears and ground the curves with the grinder. For the latch, one hole was enough, but now it needs to be two. One for the handle and the other for the cylinder cover. Instead of a handle that looks like an eyesore, I used the original racing handle with a modified square. An old outdoor latch could also be used. At least for decoration, the mortise lock also requires a counterpart for the other leaf. I screwed it into place where it belongs, and I traced the outer and inner shapes. The mortises for the latches can be drilled with a drill bit. The recess for embedding the sheet metal is quickest to finish with a chisel since this is a replica. I used hinges from the original gates. It was necessary to clean them thoroughly with a steel brush. A twisted wire brush on an angle grinder is ideal. Then comes passivation with a rust remover, and if someone wants, they can dress up the hinges using what's called blacksmith's paint. I set both leaves into the frame, supported and adjusted them so that they had the appropriate clearances and were level. Then I attached the hinges to the pivots and adjusted the clearances to the stops. I attached the hinges parallel to the top and bottom edges of the door. For fastening, I used sturdy screws with a round head. To ensure the large head sit flat, the holes must be truly perpendicular, so I used a drill press for pre-drilling. I still need to attach the original clean bolts and make the cover strips. I shaped their edges with the same profile router bit that I used to create the curves on the panels. It's worth noting that these doors are a replica only at first glance. In reality, the originals were actually tongue and groove, so the vertical boards were connected with tongues, and a frame and horizontal boards were nailed to them. From the outside, these doors are glued, so they hold together even without tongues. If someone wanted to maintain a perfect visual match, they could create tongues on the inside, even though they wouldn't serve any structural purpose. The surface finish is a personal choice, but in the case of pine, it's important to consider that it tends to exude resin in the sun. There are insulating coatings that prevent the degradation of the protective bags. However, I opted for edged linseed oil, so from time to time, I'll need to wipe off the leaking resin with acetone and refresh the linseed oil finish. Well, maybe in time, when this passes, I will decide on a protective coating, probably something patinated. So the doors are finished. Behind them lies the uni-max workshop, and I'm looking forward to meeting there again for some work, machines, or workshop equipment.